Right, so Keir Starmer reckons his Labour Party will learn the lessons in light of the drubbing they just got during these local elections, does he? No, he won't. And the damage has already been done too, because this set of results, coming just 10 months after his landslide general election win, is an indictment of all the broken promises he got away with in opposition, having very real consequences now that he's in power. This has been Labour's worst local election result in recorded local election history. Nationwide, Labour picked up just 19% of the vote on average, and on a night where the Tories were defending by far the most seats and had the most to lose, the fact Labour lost almost 2/3 of the seats they were defending, not flatlining, not making small gains, but huge losses alongside the Tories, shows the public is rejecting the old, tired two parties, but at a much greater cost, as the populist Farage and Reform UK, propped up by a gushing client media, has made massive gains. Though it was a successful night also for the Lib Dems, as well as the Green Party, who for the 8th year running increased their number of councillors, effectively doubling their representation across the councils being defended. Combined with a massive by-election loss, council control losses, and handing so much victory to Farage, Starmer very much is, as many have been warning for some time, ushering in fascism, and I have zero faith he'll change course. So Labour looks set for even more damage to come.
I could stand here and say Runcorn was close, we successfully defended 3 mayoralties, and the opposition parties tend to do well in these sorts of elections. But I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is to respond by saying, I get it. We were elected in to deliver change. We've started that change. Waiting lists are down, wages are up, interest rates are down, huge, massive difference for people who are mortgage holders. But the message I take out of these elections is that we need to go further and we need to go faster on the change that people want to see, and that's what I'm determined to do.
Further and farther in the same direction though, because your own Doncaster mayor says that actually you haven't been listening to people. She brings up specifically issues of the winter fuel allowance, PIP, changes to national insurance for businesses as issues that have come up on the doorstep. She says you need to listen and you haven't been. She's right.
Look, the Doncaster Mayor Ros is extremely good. She's done a great job as Mayor. I'm really pleased to see her re-elected in as Mayor. Because of the decisions that we made at the budget, which were tough decisions but the right decisions, we've been able to stabilise the economy, commit to the triple lock. So that means this month that pensions have gone up, state pensions, £470. We probably need to make more of that, say more about that. But in terms of the challenge, yes, I could say these are elections where opposition parties do well, governments always struggle. I think it's better for me to say, look, I get it. We have promised change, we're delivering that change, but we do need to go further, we do need to go faster. Thank you.
Right, so that was Keir Starmer there following the defeat to Reform UK in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, which Reform UK won by just 6 votes, saying that he gets it, that the change isn't being seen yet. One reason for that being, of course, that there hasn't been any. And even his own re-elected Doncaster mayor pointed this out. Starmer came back with incomes going up when the reality is they're flatlining or down. Fiscal drag, pulling more people into paying income tax on low wages. Stabilised the economy, he claims, but hasn't, because it is hamstrung by Rachel Reeves's fiscal rules, which are actually prioritised over the economy. They have to work before the economy can in their heads, it seems, which is just unhinged. The triple lock, which Starmer says is being kept, is being debated as to whether it will actually be broken, and saying the right decisions were being made regarding hiking national insurance on employers, which has resulted in unemployment rising, attacking disability benefits and attacking the winter fuel allowances were the right decision still, when a message has clearly been sent that the general public disagree with you. All he could do was say we need to go further and faster. That is not the message the public is asking for or wanting to hear. Frankly, it's a miracle he didn't refer to the stuff he really cares about, like defence spending or more cash going to Ukraine. You might be thinking that as well. But he didn't have to, you see, because to underline just how tin-eared Starmer is in light of these worst local election results for Labour since local election results ever began to be recorded, Starmer gave that interview and that speech beforehand, where he very much did bleat on about Ukraine and military drones, from a defence contractor in Bedfordshire. No lessons learnt, not listening. Labour will only continue to crumble under this leadership. Let's start with that Runcorn and Helsby by-election though. Labour were already facing an uphill struggle because of the nature of this by-election being triggered. The thug passing for the former Labour MP Mike Amesbury having a late-night punch-up which saw him convicted. But even so, this was Labour's 16th safest seat, a majority of nearly 15,000 and only 10 months into power. Surely Labour couldn't lose it. Well, they did, by 6 votes, to Reform UK, whose candidate was a former Tory too, so people still aren't actually voting for change, they're just being sucked in by the populism. People talk as if it was a close-run thing, but it wasn't. Labour should never have been in any danger at all, less than a year into power where they could lose a seat this safe, but they did. It shouldn't really come as too much as a surprise though. After all, Starmer lost Hartlepool in 2021 to the populist Boris Johnson, the opposition losing ground to the incumbent government of 11 years at that time. Starmer's politics though, isn't it? But what makes this loss worse is that due to the rise of Reform, who barely existed in 2021, the right of British politics has now been split, and Starmer is still losing to them as he incessantly attempts to copy them. He is ushering in fascism at this point. Farage telling those in Durham on that council that if they work on climate change projects or diversity or inclusion, they better start looking for new jobs, showing that the demonisation of migrants, of the disabled and binning green commitments is his politics. Starmer has been copying it. He fought this election based on much of this and will no doubt just carry on with it as cluelessly as ever. For those people in Durham, I say, if you're not in a trade union already, then bloody well join one. Farage isn't on the side of workers, he never has been and he never will be, and more fool you if you think otherwise. Labour was defending just one council, of course, Doncaster, and they lost it to Reform UK. Labour started with 40 councillors on that council and ended the night with just 12. The Tories had half of their own representation wiped out and all the independents went as well. Reform now run the council with 37 councillors. Labour's only saving grace was just managing to hold on to the mayoralty there, but Ros Jones, the mayor, blasted Starmer for not listening, and well, if you're going to agree with anyone in Labour right now on anything, then having seen that footage of Starmer at the start of this video, then this is pretty much it. She drew particular attention to the winter fuel allowance cut, where she used the Household Support Fund to mitigate Starmer's cruel cuts to pensioners in her area. But even so, she still nearly lost her job due to Starmer too. Another council that was under no overall control but was being run by a Labour minority administration since 2021, again Starmer's doing, was Durham. Durham County Council had been run by Labour for the last 100 years, and now Reform UK are running it. Amongst its new crop of councillors happens to be the former GBB's Burke, the ever so crafty Darren Grimes, so that's bound to go well, isn't it? Labour went from 42 councillors there to just 4. The Tories were reduced from 16 councillors to just 1. The independent grouping was slashed in half, and where both the Lib Dems and the Greens both made gains too, Reform took 65 council seats in one fell swoop. This is the home of the Durham Miners' Gala, the capital of trade unionism and working class struggle, and it's fallen to Farage's posh boys. One wit on Twitter that I saw opined that Luke Akehurst, the massively pro-Israel former Labour NEC fixer who essentially awarded himself a safe Labour seat in Durham, despite being from Oxford, had only been the local MP for 10 months and Labour have lost control of a council they'd held for 100 years already. But really it's on Starmer. On this basis alone, on the basis of these results in Durham alone, you would imagine big questions need asking of the strategy here. The strategy being that, of course, of Starmer's handler, though officially titled Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. The architect of Corbyn's downfall is now apparently the architect of Starmer's too. If McSweeney isn't dumped after these appalling results, then it will prove to me in no uncertain terms that Starmer is the sort of politician who is very much out of his depth in a bird bath and is totally reliant on others to tell him what to do. And reinforcing this notion further has come an excerpt from the Financial Times, basically confirming McSweeney is going nowhere, reading, Morgan McSweeney, Starmer's Chief of Staff, will pore over the results on Friday and is likely to conclude that he is right to pursue a blue Labour strategy to address the populist threat, a policy which is already starting to be deployed. Is it? Where? Populism is clearly winning. But Labour is still determined to stay its current deeply unpopular course because Morgan McSweeney deems it so. Labour lost almost 2/3 of their councillors across the country. The Tories lost roughly the same proportion, though defending many more seats the numbers are bigger. The Lib Dems increased their vote share by around 1/3 and the Greens doubled their representation. But Reform gained 677 councillors and took control of 10 councils. Now, of course, they have to run them. Now, of course, we'll see how so many inexperienced councillors get to grips with actual power. But with so many Reform councillors being former Tories, we can imagine how it'll go. And a bit of exposure of the realities of Reform amidst all of the mainstream media gushing will do the country some good, I hope, open some eyes on it. The BBC, for example, wouldn't give Oswald Mosley a microphone on principle for some 30 years. Yet the way some in the media have been behaving, they may as well have been waving flags for Farage and co. The one message I'd take away from all of this is whether you backed Labour to see off a challenge by Reform, or you backed Reform because you're sick of the Tories and Labour, what you voted for in either of those cases is absolutely no change. But if you didn't vote at all because you see no point, I'd say that Reform just won a parliamentary seat by 6 votes. So even under the archaic and undemocratic first past the post, your vote can still very much make all the difference. After all of that, I fancy a bit of anti-establishment news would be welcome though, and as such the attempts to gag Northern Irish hip-hop band Kneecap for daring to be pro-Palestine and anti-Israel have been backfiring somewhat as more and more people come out in support for them. As detailed in this video recommendation, here's your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content, as well as supporting the channel at the very same time, which is massively appreciated, holding power to account for ordinary working class people, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers folks.